Basket Full of Heads, issue 7, the final issue in the series, this miniseries. Joe Hill writing, of course, with Leo Max on the art. And we get the final tale here, which ultimately boils down to June getting out of her drowning predicament with the axe, coming up and seeking vengeance on the sheriff, and basically finding out that her boyfriend is still kind of a shithead. He didn't do exactly what they said he did, but he's still a bit of a shithead.
But he wasn't as clean as she thought she was. So I got a question for you guys. Was this a victim of expectations?
A little bit.
Okay.
I thought this was extremely straightforward and just, oh, it's the ending, and it's kind of exactly what it needed to be, but it didn't go above and beyond.
Yeah, very expositional, right? Like,
I felt that about the back half of this book in general, actually. I thought the first issues were fantastic mood pieces and this really artful storytelling, and then it shifted into being a lot of exposition.
Like, it's not a bad issue, but this is the first thing I read on Tuesday. Like, I could not wait to see how this ends, and it was fine, but it went a little bit too conventional, and just like it was everything that I thought it was gonna be. I mean, with the exception of the boyfriend and that little bit of a twist, you know.
I mean, I don't know what I was expecting or not expecting. I quite liked the last issue. There was definitely that one issue that was very expositional that I'll agree on. But this one, like, the art in the first half when she's escaping the water, and even when she's like using the axe on the sheriff, is wonderful. I loved it. She decides not to cut his head off in this case. She cuts him sort of diagonally from the shoulder down to the sort of lower stomach, and he's like, "I'm not dead. Why am I not dead? Kill me!" And she's like, maybe in a minute. My arm's tired. Let him, lie there suffering.
That was pretty good. And I like too the when she goes to rescue her boyfriend, and he's like, he noticed that she's missing a thumb, and he's missing a pinky, and he's like, "Oh, look at us, still fated to be." And I'm still like, "Oh man, look at," and then because the sheriff's not dead, he starts spilling the beans on the boyfriend, and I was like, "Oh, this is something that only a magic axe that doesn't,
I did like the mythological reason for the axe.
Yeah, so I brought this up in our chat 2 weeks ago, or last week, I forget which book it was in, but I was thumbing through, maybe it was Dollhouse, and at the end, they have the sea, what is it, Sea Dogs? Yeah, there was the origin of the axe in Sea Dogs, where the Vikings had come to North America, and they were going after the Native American tribes, and they had this axe that would bring life, not death, and it was super cool. And I was like, I wonder if this is going to tie into Basketful of Heads. Well, and through that, it's because they had killed this Native American tribe that another tribe got together with their shaman and cursed them to become werewolves. So that was pretty cool. And that's where that ties in.
It doesn't sound like it contradicts this, at least.
No.
Because the explanation, this is the axe that cut Odin down from Yggdrasil.
Yep.
When they did, it went into Yggdrasil a touch, and that's what gave it its powers.
So it doesn't, even though it's an axe, it brings life, not death, upon what it does. So yeah, I like that a lot, and I like the sheriff being kind of like, oh, it's just a Nordic myth, like it doesn't mean, but as he's in half,
yeah.
Like, come on, bro.
I really liked, because I think she cuts her boyfriend's head off, right, and sort of gives him his or she doesn't even give it to him. She sort of gives him the supplies to have his Viking funeral at sea because they're on a boat. So
I did love that.
He sets it on fire. And she goes out to the bridge, and this is kind of where we started the story back in issue 1. It's her out on the bridge, and then obviously now we have the context of this girl who who's thingied, and who killed herself, and that was kind of the backstory, and that's the one that the boyfriend let die and all the rest of it. And we have the housekeeper like pull up, and she sort of recognizes her and says, "Hey, and we find out this housekeeper, because of what happened to this girl that this family basically used and threw out, and it led to her suicide. She actually is the informant. She's the one who was recording stuff for the feds." And we find out, her name Ellie is the LE. So the son, the cop's son, was an idiot and heard LE and thought it was the initials, and that happened to match up with the boyfriend. So that was an amusing little touch, but I did kind of like this because I actually thought that it was maybe going to go really dark here, where she was going to jump. Like I genuinely thought that everything she's went through on this night has been so traumatic that maybe she will jump.
I have to say, it never once even led me the impression that that was going to happen. Like, I never once even crossed my mind that that she would do that. And maybe that's a flaw in the storytelling for me, in that I never believed that was a possibility at the end.
Oh no, I was going like, she's this axe and this island has tainted her so much that she can't, like, this family, just like with the girl, right? She's gonna find the ultimate fate, and then here comes the savior. And I like that she talks her off the ledge. And it's someone that worked within the family and saw how nasty they were when no one else did. So I like that she was always privy to the truth, and she was actually doing something about it. Unlike the boyfriend who just kept taking the paycheck, and he was able to buy her the ring.
I like this stuff, but just to go back with Carson, I don't think you can call it a flaw in the storytelling. I mean, I know you said for you at the end, but in this context, I don't know if that really applies. Like, either it works or it doesn't. And I think the fact that two of us felt the possibility that this is what it was setting up at the end, for me means
that's why I've very intentionally quantified for me. I'm not saying this is bad, badly written. I'm not saying that. I said it was a flaw for me. So it didn't land for me in that regard.
Oh, it didn't land for you, but I take umbrage with the word flaw. I think flaw is kind of the wrong word for the context.
It feels like a flaw to me because it never gave me that impression. It
didn't work for him, and that's. I guess that's fine, but it worked for me and you, Pete. So like, I can see where he's coming from.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is that a flaw is what causes the thing that doesn't work. The thing that works at the end result is not the flaw itself. Does that make sense?
Okay, the flaw for me though here is that I didn't think there was anything in the writing or the art that made me think that she was going to. So it's for me, it's a flaw that it didn't give me that impression.
I think this is on you, because the second she's on that bridge, the second I saw her walking towards the bridge, I immediately got worried. Like, the first thing I thought of is that she's going to jump because of what she's been through.
Fair enough. Maybe this is on me. I'm not, I'm not saying that the book's bad.
Especially
for whatever reason, it didn't strike me.
But especially when you tie it to the maniacal laughter before, when she's listening to the music, and she's laughing because the tape says, police evidence on it. It's just a song. Like, I don't know. For me, it was, I got this bad feeling the second I saw her walking onto that bridge, and for me, it kind of recontextualized what this story is that the whole thing's been about her believing that her boyfriend can't be this bad thing. That every step along the way, he started off being this perfect boyfriend in issue 1, and then he was taken away, and everything's been about trying to like convince her that he's actually this bad guy, that something's bad. It's been about getting to the boyfriend, and then not believing that he's done these horrible things. And ultimately, he's just kind of, not maybe as bad, but he's kind of fallen into the same trappings as the family, where he's willing to let the other half kind of like die and just take the benefits for himself, and that he's kind of just like them. And she's ultimately almost a victim, like this other girl was, to that negligence, to those just malicious, like parasitical kind of like entities.
Yeah, the island's been rotting, because we see how I mean, for whatever reason from the beginning I thought that the cops had something to do with it, but I didn't think it went all the way up to the sheriff. So like, this is an island that is so corrupt that really the only thing that helped bring it down was a mystical Viking axe, right? Like, well, that's
the tool. But I mean, the story is really about this young woman kind of changing it all, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, because what I like about it is the housekeeper got to save this person. She didn't let, but she saw what happened to the previous one and has felt guilty about it and wanted to do something for it, and had a chance here to save someone else. So for me, all the story beats kind of fell into place, and it kind of contextualized what the story's actually been about.
Yeah, it was just a little bit more straightforward than I was expecting for the ending to be. Like, despite the twist of the boyfriend and then the housekeeper,
it falls down to, when I was reading this, it kind of ended up feeling conventional, and it lost a lot of that unique feeling that I felt the first half of this series really had.
I'm wondering if it's going to read and trade, though, too.
It's possible.
This could just feel like the epilogue
I wonder how much of this is just between issues. You thinking up of where this is going and what it actually is, and
well, see, that's the thing. I didn't actually have any like ideas of what it was going to do. It's more the tone shifted from this, you know, that brooding horror and fear in those first few issues of what and mystery of everything, and to the second half being a lot of exposition and just the answers often not being
forget about
super interesting.
I disagree with the interesting part, but forget about the exposition, because I agree that at least one of the issues was too exposition-y. I think why this works is the whole point of it is that it starts off feeling like a traditional horror movie, but then the actual horror is a lot more real. It's a lot more realistic. I mean, you've got the supernatural acts, but the actual horror is more about people being taken advantage of, about the rich taking advantage of this young woman. Like,
I get that. I feel like I don't think I can just forget it being exposition-y, because I don't think it is just that one issue. I think it's been every issue since that has felt really exposition to me. Even this.
Well, no, I'm not saying forget. I'm not saying forget that complaint. I'm not saying that's an invalid complaint if that's how you felt. I'm saying in the context of talking about the tone shift, that's not the tone. We're not talking about tone. We're talking about it being too exposition-y. That's something different.
Okay. I guess in that regard, then I didn't feel the shift was a natural shift of the story for me. It felt really jarring and sudden, and just it never gelled together properly with the first half for me.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think this final issue improved the story for the most part. I agree the one in the prison cell where the son, the sheriff's son, was sort of telling the story was a bit too much, just packed in, like him explaining all this stuff in one go. But I do actually think the recontextualization of what this story's actually been about, and this is the thing where I feel like if this wasn't like month to month, like getting the individual chapters, this is one that actually might play better as a movie in one sitting, as it were, where you start off this way and then it sort of gradually throughout the story shifts towards this thing instead. I think that subversion's kind of part of the point. So now, for me, this worked. I actually appreciate that this didn't go deep into mythology. I'm kind of glad that this was one out of the Hill House books that didn't go into.
I didn't need it to go into mythology and like weird stuff necessarily. I think it was just, like I say, the tone shift didn't feel natural to me, and so I didn't buy the shift because of that. So it kind of just felt very disconnected and underwhelming due to that.
I guess I just disagree. I think this final issue improved the story. So
I feel like I'm somewhere in between you guys. I was a bit disappointed where it goes, but it was still good. You know, it's just like, it's that thing where whatever you have it building to be, like I expected it to, you know, like kind of like Dollhouse Family, the way that ended. And I was like, oh man, that felt very fulfilling. This didn't, to me, feel quite as fulfilling, but there's stuff in there that I really liked, that like the repeated theme of the bridge, right? That bridge is kind of the family's undoing, right? Because it led to the girl's death. That led to the investigations, that led to the boyfriend having June stay there through the storm and whatnot, that kind of ended up being there. And it's the one way in and out of the town, you know, or the island.
Even just that last visual when you get to the final page and she's in the car with the housekeeper, they drive past the police going in the other direction. You know, that's kind of the ending of it, as dawn is rising. And in fact, the last line's even, you know, the sun's coming up, you know, sooner or later it always does, kind of thing. So it's this choice to leave this behind and move on. You know, I think the storytelling is actually really strong. So, no.
I think just not just about this book in general, but it has me on a very personal level now concerned about Joe Hill comics, and maybe they're not necessarily for me, in the sense that between the back half of this feeling really exposition-y for me, and how I felt about the last issue, especially of Plunge. Thank you.
The one that was better than issue 2, yes.
Well, again, for me, we saw this last week. For me, it felt very exposition-y, and it lost a lot of the impact and feeling and the mood of the previous issues. And that's kind of been my problem with the back half of this book, is that lack of that mood and things that got me interested in the first place felt like it faded. And if they're working for you, that's great. Keep enjoying them. But that's a pattern now that okay, there's 2 things in a row that I've had this feeling from Joe Hill that has me worried that maybe it's not for me in the future.
Did either of you read Lock and Key?
No.
I'm sure this has come up before. I own almost all of it on Comixology, and I've never read it.
But I didn't know if you started. That's why I asked. But I wonder if you're listening and you have, is this a problem? Is this like the thing that Joe Hill does, where he sets a mood and then gets away with it to do a more traditional storytelling? Because I don't feel like that with Plunge.
It's a problem. Yeah. And maybe for everyone, it's not a problem.
Yeah. For Plunge, I wouldn't say he gets more traditional. If anything, that book gets weirder.
Yeah.
The more it's revealed.
Yeah. So I don't know about that, but like, and again, I really enjoyed this issue. It just wasn't the twisty, turny type stuff that we were getting, and it almost felt like this was just the end tag, you know, like if the issues were like a couple pages more, it still could have been 6 issues. Like I almost feel like this was a little bit too, I don't want to say bloated because it's not bloated, but you know, this still could have been 6 issues for whatever reason, and they went with 7. That's just it. So
yeah, I wouldn't say bloated at all.
No,
I don't think that, I wouldn't even use that word either.
No, and that's why I don't want to. But it feels like this still could have been 6 issues, but for whatever reason, he adjusted the story and made it into 7. You know, because I remember, wasn't it solicited as 6
originally?
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever happened. But I want to just keep reiterating, I did enjoy it. It still features a Viking axe made, you know, that's origin site of Yggdrasil. How do I not love it? And then when you look at the design on the blade, it was like, you look at it facing up, it's like, oh yeah, that's Yggdrasil. Like, I'm staring at me at the face the whole time. So, no, I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. I don't give a shit about the axe. I just give a shit about the human story. But, but you know, and the atmosphere. I love the atmosphere. No, I really enjoyed Basketful of Heads, and Plunge is still kind of up there for me in terms of the books. But and part of that is that they do have 2 of the better art teams as well out of the books too, for my taste.
It helps when you have Eminem and then Leo Max on this one.
Hard to argue with the art.
Yeah, this still felt very 70s slashery, even in the end. So you give them credit for that. They kept that tone throughout.
Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm just gonna give it an 8.
Connor?
6.5 from me.
I would go with 8.5. So there you go. That is Basketful of Heads.